Hi everyone, Dr. Ray from Posture Size and Pain Free and Fit. Today we've got a great video, part one for those of you with spondylolisthesis on how to build your own spondylolisthesis home healing exercise program. Today, part one, we're going to be talking about how to choose exercises based on body plane and stability. Hope you enjoy. So when you're looking to figure out how to build your own spondylolisthesis healing exercise program, it all begins with a body analysis to figure out how you're going to target exercises specifically to meet your unique stability and pain issues. Most people with spondylolisthesis, where the bone in the lower back has slipped forward, need to learn how to engage the muscles to hold that bone so there's not excessive forward translation of the vertebra or excessive extension or overarching of the back. Many people with spondylolisthesis, if you've taken our videos before, know that many people have an anterior pelvis posture where the pubic bone is lower than the tailbone, creating an arch in the back. They also have weak abdominal muscles, which when they're doing overhead activities, make them extend their backs too much from the lower back, and they don't have the abdominal stability to hold that back in what's called a neutral spine position. So if you haven't yet done so, go to either the Posture Size or the painfreeandfit.com website. We have a free body analysis. Check out what your unique posture, movement tendency issues are, your unique stability patterns with multifidus muscles, abdominal obliques like the internal oblique, external oblique, transverse abdominis function. Figure out how to engage your lower erector spinae muscles to help check that spondylolisthesis vertebra so it doesn't go forward. And then you're going to plug in a movement plane analysis on your body, which we're going to talk about today, to figure out how to group which exercises to meet your particular needs. Now, there's many planes of motion in the body, and what I mean by planes of motion is there's front to back motions, there are side to side motions, there are twisting or rotational motions. Now, if on your body analysis, like most people with spondylo, you have a front to back stability problem, meaning that you, for instance, have an anterior pelvis where the tailbone is higher than the pubic bone. You have a sway back posture where the hips are held more forward than the rib cage. You have a forward head posture where the ear is more forward of the shoulder. All these front to back motions, including rotation like protracted shoulder blades or scapula, all these front to back motions, they cause a front to back stability issue with your back when you're moving. When you're squatting, with your bending, if you have a forward head posture, if you have an anterior tilt posture, you're much more likely to do those postural errors or make those postural errors in your movement, and that's going to place undue stress on your spondylolisthesis. If you have a front to back issue, make sure that you group your exercises so that they challenge your ability to check or hold or prevent that issue from happening. So for instance, if I had a forward head posture problem, I would choose exercises that prevent me from having a forward head posture. Doing planks or push-ups, where I emphasize my head coming back as I hold a neutral spine in my lower back, help to train me to check that body position so I'm not in the tendency to have my head goose forward. It's going to strengthen me. Exercises that prevent me from elevating my tailbone, such as planks, where you have an emphasis on lower abdominal function, holding your tailbone under and crunching down. That's going to prevent the typical problem in a plank position where I'm overarching my lower back, where the tail comes up and I let my belly sag. If I'm going to be doing abdominal crunches, if I'm going to be doing pulls, I could choose a rowing exercise where as I row, the typical tendency when rowing, because it's a front to back motion, rowing is more likely to cause an anterior pelvis, a forward head posture, a forward sway back posture where I throw my hips forward to extend the arms in the row. That's an exact exercise that's perfect for training head back, tail under, and any other like sway back or forward rounded shoulder posture to prevent me, to strengthen the muscles around these areas, these regional areas of my body, and the neurological coordination to prevent that front to back instability. So that's how I'm going to choose my exercises, based on a front to back problem. Now, if I have a side to side problem, a lateral problem, that could mean I have a tendency to lean my ribs to one side. I work, I drive, I perform activities where I have a tendency, when I look at my posture in the mirror, I have a tendency to lean to one side, or when I walk For instance, if I have a tendency to hip hike, elevate one hip up, or when I squat, I have a tendency to elevate one hip up more than another, that's a side-to-side problem. If I have a tendency to lean my head to one side more, if I look in the mirror, one shoulder is higher, head leans. These are all lateral or side-to-side problems. If that's the case, many times the spondylolisthesis pain is aggravated with lateral motions. We're bending to reach something sideways. And because there's a sideways motion and I can't stabilize my back, the facet joint gets irritated. The posterior aspect of the disc gets irritated, either from compression on one side or stretching on the other. So if that's the case, if I notice in my posture movement analysis, like if I do a lunge test and I lunge down and I notice I hip hike on one side, that's a sideways movement instability. Those are the kind of exercises I want to choose. So if that's the case, lunges are a great way to begin that, because as I do a lunge or a split squat motion, I have a tendency, most people do, for the front hip to swing up. So training that hip to stay down with the rest of my unique core positions for my body is key for preventing spondylolisthesis pain. In a lunge or split squat position, I also have a tendency to lean my ribs to that side. So that's a great exercise to keep the ribs up. Other exercises like one-legged squats are a great exercise to train lateral stability, because here the hip wants to swing up and the ribs want to lean in. So training myself to hold the hips level and the rib cage level is a perfect exercise. Cliffhangers and side planks. Cliffhangers, remember, are exercises done where you have your feet hanging off the bench and you're training lateral stability. Here my legs want to fall down. The pelvis wants to shift and laterally compress on the bottom side, overstretch on the top. It takes core strength to train around my spondylolisthesis vertebra so that I don't have that lateral stability problem. I can do side planks for lateral stability problems. Whether on my shoulder, on my arm, the hips want to drop. It wants to compress the top of my body. I'm training myself to hold myself in a neutral square position to protect that spondylolisthesis with all my unique RPI, reverse posture corrections, and my neutral spine held during this big global instability challenge. I can have a rotational problem as well. If I notice that when I stand, the chest twists to one side more than another, or the hips turn to one side. Many people have an external rotation problem with their hip, where because of sitting and standing, they cross their legs, they sit with one leg out, the hip has a tendency to rotate to one side. This is a twisting instability. The head looks more to one side. You're reaching, you're driving, you're turning more during the day, or your motions at work to one side. You're watching TV at night or working on your computer and you're twisted to one side. Over time, that torques the muscles, the obliques, the lats. Things get tighter. As a result, the body gets into a torsional or a rotational disturbance. These exercises now, you want to make sure meet these demands. So exercises like TL pulls, where you're pulling a band using your abdominals to twist, making sure you're keeping your corrections in place. If I have a tendency to rotate my pelvis to the left, I want to make sure I keep my pelvis to the right checked, so in a neutral position with my rib cage as I do TL hip rotations. If I have a problem with an external rotated leg, I want to make sure that as I'm doing that TL rotation, I'm not over-rotating to train that leg in external rotation. I want to shorten that motion. And on the other side, if this is my external rotated leg, I want to increase that motion with my pelvis to correct that tendency. The hip, the low back, the torso, the shoulder blade complex, it all works together as a unit, the lower legs. I have to think globally from my head right down to my foot. Do I have a rotational problem? If I have a rotational problem, rotational planks, where either off my elbow or off my arm, I'm engaged in my plank position and I'm holding a rotated position, forward or backwards. That creates more of a twist, more of a tendency to rotate. One-legged exercises, one-legged stances without hip hiking. I have a tendency to twist to one side. I'm holding the correction of that twist. Again, one-legged squat exercises. Great ability to twist if I'm not careful with my form. So that's a great exercise to pick if I have a rotational problem. So when we begin putting together exercises and choosing what exercises are good for my spondylolisthesis, we have a lot of them on this channel. If you're not sure what they are, feel free to subscribe to our channel. They're always coming out. Every week we have one on spondylo. But choosing which one is right for you is all based on what your unique analysis is. It does you no good if you're targeting side-to-side exercises if you have a problem with front-to-back stability. It does you no good if you're working on front-to-back stability and your major issue is a rotational stability problem. because when you go through life, when your spondylolisthesis pain hurts you, it's usually related to the direct plane of motion or stability pattern in your sports, in your workouts, or in your daily activities that you see with your posture. Your posture is just a mirror image of what you've been doing all day long, how you move, how you sleep, how you participate in sports, and these global instability patterns are a direct result of how your body moves out of good alignment, how that spondylolisthesis segment becomes stressed. If you've enjoyed this video on spondylolisthesis and choosing exercises based on planes of instability, feel free to subscribe to our channel. We've got a lot of great videos for spondylolisthesis out there. If you'd like to help me share this valuable information with others, give me a thumbs up below. Questions or comments, write in. I'll do my best to answer them. And remember, if you're looking to build a unique, customized program for yourself, for your spondylolisthesis pain, check out our Fast Track program at painfreeandfit.com. It goes through all the analysis, the coordination exercises, teaches you how to find neutral spine, your flexibility, your strengthening and conditioning exercises to get you where you are now, out of pain, more stable, and back into the activities that you want to be doing with a stable and pain-free, hopefully, spondylolisthesis segment. And if you don't like to read, you don't like to make your own program, your other option is to always contact me. I'd be delighted to get together one-on-one with you and build a customized exercise program to stabilize your spine and to help reduce your chances of spondylolisthesis pain. Look forward to our part 2 in this series. We're going to be talking about progression and how to put together exercise, how to progress them, and how to build different levels of conditioning for your spondylolisthesis pain.